History is often told as a story of great battles and powerful rulers. But what about the everyday genius of ordinary people? How did they not just survive, but thrive in some of the harshest conditions imaginable? Today, we're uncovering 3 incredible stories of human ingenuity. From the freezing plains of North America to the darkest winters of Viking Scandinavia and the chaotic streets of ancient Rome. These aren't just tales of survival. They're masterclasses in innovation, resilience, and community. Let's start on the Great Plains of North America, where indigenous peoples engineered one of the most brilliant and efficient homes ever conceived, the teepee. When European settlers arrived, they built what they knew: drafty, smoky log cabins that were miserable in the 30-degree Fahrenheit winters. They couldn't understand how Native Americans were living comfortably in what they dismissed as simple tents. But the teepee was anything but simple. It was a marvel of environmental engineering, perfected over generations. The foundation was a frame of about 15 to 20 lodgepole pines, chosen for their strength and straightness. This conical shape wasn't just for looks. It was incredibly stable against the relentless prairie winds. The real magic, however, was in the covering. This was made from 10 to 20 buffalo hides, painstakingly tanned and stitched together by the women of the tribe. The hides were naturally waterproof and incredibly tough. When stretched over the frame, they created a snug, secure shelter. But how did they stay warm and avoid filling the space with smoke? This is where the design gets truly clever. At the top of the cone were 2 large smoke flaps, like adjustable ears. These could be moved with long poles to create a draft, pulling smoke from the central fire straight up and out, no matter which way the wind was blowing. This system created a natural convection current, drawing cold air from the bottom and venting warm air and smoke out the top. Inside, another layer of buffalo hide, called an ozan or dew cloth, was hung around the lower walls. This inner lining created an insulating air pocket between it and the outer wall. It trapped warmth, blocked drafts, and directed any incoming cold air up and away from the living space, feeding it into the fire's draft. The floor was covered with soft furs and grasses, providing even more insulation from the frozen ground. The result was a home that was warm, well ventilated, and smoke-free, even in the depths of winter. And the best part, a skilled family could take down their entire home in about an hour, pack it onto a travois, and move with the buffalo herds. It was a masterpiece of sustainable, mobile architecture, perfectly adapted to its environment. The settlers' cabins, by comparison, were static, inefficient, and built against the landscape, not with it. Now, let's travel across the Atlantic and back in time to the chilling, endless nights of a Scandinavian winter. For the Vikings, the darkest part of the year was a time of deep anxiety. The sun grew weaker each day, and the world was consumed by cold and shadow. This was when they held their most important festival, Yule or Jael. It was a 12-day celebration that was part spiritual ritual, part psychological survival guide, and part massive party. Yule was a festival of light in the face of darkness. The most iconic tradition was the Yule log. A massive log, often an entire tree, was brought into the longhouse and set ablaze. It was meant to burn for the entire festival, a roaring symbol of heat and light, meant to encourage the sun to return from its long slumber. This wasn't just superstition. It was a powerful act of communal hope. Families and neighbors would gather around the fire, sharing its warmth and strengthening their bonds during a time of isolation. The centerpiece of the feast was a sacrifice to the god Freya, the deity of fertility, peace, and prosperity. A boar, a sacred animal to Freya, would be sacrificed. People would lay their hands on the boar and make oaths for the coming year, vows of bravery or promises of loyalty. The meat was then cooked and shared in a great feast, a ritual act meant to secure the gods' favor and ensure a bountiful spring. And what's a Viking festival without mead? Large horns were filled with the sweet, potent honey wine and passed around the longhouse. Skalds, the Viking poet-historians, would stand and recite epic sagas of gods and heroes, tales of courage that reminded everyone that even the longest night eventually ends. They told stories, sang songs, and gave gifts, often simple, handmade tokens that reinforced social ties. Yule was a powerful mechanism for social cohesion. It brought people together, gave them a shared purpose, and armed them with the psychological resilience needed to endure the brutal winter. Many of these traditions, from the Yule log and festive feasting to the spirit of gift-giving, would later be absorbed into Christmas celebrations, a testament to their enduring power. Finally, let's journey south to the heart of a bustling empire, the streets of ancient Rome. For the average Roman citizen, the plebeian life was a daily hustle. Most lived in cramped, multi-story apartment buildings called insulate. These were often poorly built, fire-prone, and lacked two things we take for granted: a kitchen and a refrigerator. So, how did millions of people eat every single day? They hit the streets. Imagine stepping into a Roman market. The air is thick with 1,000 smells. Fresh bread from a bakery, sizzling meat from a food stall, the sharp scent of fish sauce or garum, and underneath it all, the undeniable stench of a city with no modern sanitation. It's a symphony of chaos. Vendors are shouting, trying to outdo each other. Fresh figs, sweet as honey, one might yell, while another promises the best spiced wine in the city. You'd have to haggle for everything. Prices were never fixed, and your ability to negotiate determined how well you ate that day. You could buy raw ingredients, vegetables, grains, and maybe a little bit of cheese, but without a kitchen, you couldn't cook them. That's where the thermopolia came in. These were the fast food joints of the ancient world. They had L-shaped counters with large clay pots, or dolia, sunk into them, holding pre-cooked hot food like lentil stew, sausages, or porridge. For a few coins, you could get a quick, hot meal. Tabernae, which were small shops or taverns, also served food and wine. But the market was more than just a place to get food. It was the social media of its day. Here, you'd catch up on the latest gossip, hear news from distant parts of the empire, and complain about your landlord. It was a vibrant, living community hub. Of course, it was also risky. Pickpockets were everywhere, preying on the distracted. Food safety was non-existent. The meat might be a few days old. The water used for cooking could be contaminated, and there were no health inspectors. You ate at your own risk. Life for the average Roman was precarious. They lived paycheck to paycheck, or more accurately, meal to meal. But within this noisy, dirty, and chaotic system, they built a resilient urban culture. They found ways to feed a massive population, create community, and navigate the challenges of daily life with a kind of gritty, pragmatic ingenuity. It was a masterclass in urban survival, driven by the simple, universal need to eat. From the elegant engineering of a teepee to the hopeful blaze of a Yule log and the chaotic energy of a Roman street market, these stories show us something profound. They reveal that human history isn't just about the grand and the powerful. It's about the cleverness, adaptability, and enduring spirit of people facing the everyday challenges of their world. It's a powerful reminder that some of the greatest innovations are born from necessity, and the strongest communities are forged in the fires of shared experience. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through history, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories of human ingenuity. See you next time.